He's back, but is he up to the same old song and dance?
Lights, camera, action.
Welcome back to the Cinema Dive. My name is Nathan, and today we're doing something a little different. First of all, I was absent last week, had my entire computer crash, and lost 2 projects I was working on. Ended up getting some new parts for it, getting it back up and running, and re-recording those projects, but for now I'm doing something different this week. I wanted to look into an upcoming movie because it's by one of my favorite directors, and it just doesn't seem to fit in with the rest of his stuff, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm talking about Guy Ritchie and his upcoming movie The Covenant, starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Dar Salaam. And I really do apologize if I'm getting that name wrong. Now, this is an upcoming movie, so the only thing we have to digest is, of course, the synopsis and the trailer, which if you haven't seen, definitely go take a look. The movie does look pretty awesome, but let's dive in and see what we can extrapolate from this and see if Guy Ritchie is falling into his Guy Ritchie ways. Now, if you're not familiar with Guy Ritchie films, let me run over some of my favorites from his filmography. He obviously did movies like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and then he ended up doing the movie Snatch, which is probably one of my favorites. Of course, he did the 2 Sherlock Holmes movies, the movie Man from U.N.C.L.E., the movie King Arthur, The Gentleman, and Wrath of Man. Now, of course, he's done multiple others, but for all intents and purposes, these are some of his most popular ones, and they all have kind of a format in which they go through. They all have like qualities of each other, where they are high point action films, somewhat leaning on the gangster mentality of movies. But with Guy Ritchie in his way, he plays in a subtle bit of comedy and just good old comedic value in general to each one of these movies. We recently covered the movie Bullet Train, which I had originally thought was a Guy Ritchie film before I knew who the real director was, just because of the way that they had certain film aspects, such as the jumping back and forth in different times and places, and of course the introduction of comedic value into a high-octane action movie. And of course, the all-famous Guy Ritchie breakdown, which happens in just about every film of his. I'll throw the one from King Arthur up so you know what I'm talking about.
From the beginning, the very beginning.
I woke up.
Then?
Well, then I got dressed, I went downstairs, I saw the girls. Lucy was missing.
Where's Lucy?
She's a good girl.
A nice girl.
She works here.
Then?
Then, me and the lads took care of a bit of business. Bit of housekeeping.
Everything as it should be.
That's the spoil from the boats.
Then?
Then we heard
George had trouble again last night.
I meet me out the front.
Which George? King George, Angry George, George the Dragon? Be clear, Arthur, which George?
Now that's just a slice of this one, but Guy Ritchie does do this in just about every single one of his films that I've seen, save for a couple, and it's just kind of part of his style, which makes his movies kind of stand out a little bit. And overall, even though the movies might have serious connotations and definitely some serious drama and action in them, they still touch on a bit of comedy. Even in his movie Wrath of Man, there is a little bit of touch of that, although that movie is a far more serious movie, as it does revolve around a man getting revenge for the death of his son. But you can definitely still watch those kind of movies and just pick up on the fact that it's Guy Ritchie. So now moving to the trailer for The Covenant, when I first saw it, it just didn't ring out as a Guy Ritchie film until on screen it says from Guy Ritchie. So I was curious to see if his approach to this film might be similar to all of his other movies and have his Guy Ritchie-ness to it, or if he's gone in a completely different route with this as far as not only directing but writing style as well. If you haven't seen the trailer, like I said, go watch it, but the premise is during the war in Afghanistan, U.S. Sergeant John Kinley recruits Ahmed to interpret with local Afghans during their mission in Afghanistan. Ahmed agrees in pursuit of revenge against the Taliban for the death of his son. When the soldiers' platoon confronts the Taliban in the desert, they are caught off guard and Kinley is knocked down. Before he can be captured, Ahmed rescues Kinley by dragging him through the desert mountains to avoid the Taliban. Kinley then returns to the United States, but soon learns Ahmed is pursued by the Taliban and is holed up somewhere in Afghanistan. When U.S. authorities refuse to respond, Kinley himself travels back to Afghanistan to rescue the friend who risked his life for a total stranger. Obviously, the trailer lets us know we're in for some heavy military action in this movie, and of course, with the brilliance that Jake Gyllenhaal is, I'm definitely looking forward to this one. It looks high action, but it doesn't have any tales of a Guy Ritchie film overall. That may just because I am only seeing the trailer, but it also seems to be taking a much more serious tonality compared to other Guy Ritchie films. But from what I can tell, this is definitely a departure from some of his other films. Even though he's had some other projects such as Aladdin, which wasn't so much Guy Ritchie-esque, but it definitely was something that still fit his wheelhouse to a degree. So this is something I definitely have my eye on, and hopefully you've seen the trailers and have interest in it as well, as I think this is probably one of the few military movies I've seen Jake Gyllenhaal in, save for like Jarhead, and maybe you can consider Source Code him being in the military, although without going into whole details I can't explain why I say that, but we'll save that for one day when I get down to breaking down that movie. But it'll be interesting to see what Guy Ritchie is doing with this film. Is he taking on a whole new style? Is he trying to make a departure from what his old stuff has given us? And if, like I said, you've seen any of his older movies, you'll know what I'm talking about. He is one of my favorite directors so far out there, although he's among many. But I have loved almost every single one of his films I've seen, save a couple. But for the most part, I enjoy his filmography, and I've watched multiple of his films multiple times through, even ones that didn't do so well at the box office. So I'm excited to see what he does with this movie, and hopefully get to see it soon, and then give a full-on breakdown and see if it does fit into the Guy Ritchie-ness of it all. But it's a short video this week just because I'm trying to recover from a computer crash, and I should have more projects up and rolling here soon on some other movies that I actually found really interesting, and I'm excited to get those out. But for now, that's all I have on The Covenant. If you have any comments to put down what you think of Guy Ritchie, what you think of this upcoming film, have you seen a lot of our Guy Ritchie movies? What do you think is going to take place? Do you think this is going to fit into his filmography, or do you think it's going to be something completely different from what he normally does? Also, get down in the comments, let me know of other movies that are coming out that are on the way that you think would be awesome to see, or ones that you think need more attention that are more of the, once again, these movies that keep on sliding in without a whole lot of us knowing about them. And if you liked the video, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel, helps me grow. And with that, you all have a wonderful day.